we're live. Yay. Welcome to Spotlight Sunday with Amy again. This is Amy. This is what, your third time for Spotlight Sunday? No?
Second, yeah.
Oh, second. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm super, super excited to have you again. And we're talking about something completely different this time. So it's going to be super fun. So while I get everything on the techie side shared and put it in all the places it needs to go, I would love it if you could just introduce yourself for us again for all the new people that we have around here now, and then we'll dive in. Sound good?
Okay. Awesome. All right. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a spiritual life coach still. I was last time and I am still this time. I just have a different offering now. I've sort of narrowed down. Still same ideal client too. I'm working with women who want a personal, unique spirituality that feels right to them. They're not interested either in the way that they were brought up in terms of spirituality or never connected to something. My major offering now and what has changed about my business is that I'm primarily stepping into a teacher role, and I'm still one-on-one coaching with clients who really want to do the deep dive, but my primary offering is becoming a digital course, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's all around the moon, which is something that I've been captivated with for years, and it marries my interest in the moon and moon phases and my personal growth junkie sort of attitude. It's married all into one, and it's like a really, really exciting compilation of things. But yeah, I've been one-on-one coaching with women who have really just kind of been in a sort of numb or jaded spot where it comes to spirituality. And for spirituality means something different to everybody. For some people, there's this really religious connotation. For other people, it's just like, well, what's the meaning of life? I want to understand the big questions. And for me, it's a little of all of the above. And people are really questioning a lot right now. We're in a time of great sort of questioning anyway. And it's a really exciting time to be working with the population. And I just knew that if I wanted to scale my message and really start talking to more people about what I think is important about waking up consciously, I had to do it in a different way than one-on-one coaching. So I'm really excited to be offering this course and really hitting the ground running with that. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today to talk about it.
That's awesome. So I have a random question before we dive into the content. So how did you get into all of this stuff? Have you always been super interested, or did something happen?
Yeah. So yes and no. So when I was a little kid, I was sort of really daydreamy, and I was kind of fantasize about what was going on in space and all that stuff. And I experienced a tragedy when I was really young and lost somebody that was really important to me. And when that happened, I was like, where did they go? What happens over there? I had all of these questions that nobody could answer. And I remember being in the grocery store checkout line back in the 80s and maybe early 90s. They used to have these little booklets in the grocery store checkout line and be like ghost stories. And that's where I started, was death and ghost stories. But I was a Catholic school student after that, and really sort of learned all these stories that ended up making me have more questions about what are you talking about? None of this makes sense to me. Did this really happen? Is this factual? And then I went to high school and college and got super sciencey and super I want double-blind studies to prove to me that things are real. And so I went from this magical, mystical kid to sort of questioning more, to sort of really questioning and pushing out all the magical and the mystical and thinking it was all BS. And got really, how everybody gets a little self-righteous in their 20s about something. Some people become vegan, some people become, religious, or something. We all kind of take some sort of stance. And that was that was my thing. I'm like, religion sucks and I'm an atheist and blah. And then as adulthood wears on you and kind of reminds you that it's not also as we think it is in our 20s, I sort of started having those something more questions, as I call it. I feel like there's something more. I feel I don't all of this science is great and explains a lot, but there's some mystery behind all this that I don't really understand. And because I'm an academic and I've made everything academic about my life, I dove into the books and mindfulness and meditation first, the mental scientific approaches to spirituality. And it just blew out from there. And it's been about 15 years of doing that stuff. And here I am now, and like help other people sort of do the same thing. So
that's so cool.
I love it. Yeah.
I love that. I love hearing like that whole journey part, because I think everybody's story is obviously so different, but I don't know, I just like hearing that. And I've heard you talk a lot about the sciencey part of stuff too. So I wondered how that kind of tied in.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. If you're here, say hi. We have 5 people here and only 1 person has said hi. Hello, Debbie. So let us know if you're here, and feel free to ask Amy any questions about this stuff along the way. And yeah, so I'm super excited to hear about this stuff. The moon stuff, it's like fascinating to me every time you bring it up. So I can't wait to hear more.
Okay. So just going now?
Just go. Yeah.
All right. I kind of want to start off and just like explain, because I know who this group is for. Like, I just want to say like how powerful this whole like go, ready, set, imperfect action, showing up as you are and trusting the process stuff really is, and doing things like this with people like you, how important this really is. Because when you actually stand, even if it's a screen, like I know we're not really here, but like when you stand in a place, and I've also learned that standing helps too, and like speak about what you love, it just flows so much better than when we're trying so hard and we're like trying to be perfect and all this stuff and get it all ready first and buttoned up. And like I've grown more in the past month of just like stumbling through my life than I have, trying to perfect it all. So I felt like I really like needed to say that to this group before I even got into my stuff, because this month has been so much about that. So
I love it. I love hearing that. Yes. Just freaking do it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Because you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my my evolved obsession of the moon has turned into a new offering that I'm now offering to not only the students that I've been working with, but like I've quickly seen this catch fire with so many, like every person I've talked to, they just light up. They're like, because the moon is so wonderful, right? Like who hasn't, especially lately with all the like the super moons and the eclipses and all this stuff, who hasn't like stepped outside at one point and been like caught by like the majesty, especially if you live somewhere where you can really see it. It's like it's a really, really powerful entity that we have in this nature that I have come to believe is us. We are all a part of the same thing. And when we see things that are this magnificent in ourself, it's jarring. And the reason why I love using the moon phases as a framework for personal growth is because it is so magnetic and powerful when you see it. So it really calls people and it compels people. And what a great tool for presence, which is so much about what personal growth is like stepping out of the habit and into presence. And like the moon is just such a wonderful way to be able to do that. And so anyhow, that's just sort of like my love affair with the moon. But what I've done in this course, and I'm just talking freely about this, I don't have this super planned out, but what I've done in this course is basically take the 8 moon phases, and I'm not the first person who has done something like this, but this is a compilation of everything that I have learned. And what I've done is take the 8 moon phases. Some people explain the moon phases as 4 moon phases. Some people do 8. I think it's more accurate to say 8 because it really looks like 8 different moons if you take a snapshot, right? So you start with the very dark black new moon, and it goes all the way up to full, and then it goes back to dark again. And within each of those 8 phases, there are different, I like to call them vibes. There's a different vibe going on in the earth world that relate and correspond to a particular point in the moon phases, okay?
Okay.
So I'm trying to like talk about like what would be best to talk about right now. I'm not even gonna talk about the benefits of it all, because everybody, like, if you personally develop, good things will happen. That's like a summation of all my benefits of working.
We're all assuming personal
I really
development
just want
is
to
a
talk
good
about
thing.
the moon and like what, So let's break down the 8 phases. I want to just share with you the vibes that I've come up with based on like my research of a bunch of different things that may talk about the moon and may not talk about the moon, but somehow my brain, and I think you're like this, Brooke, like we have this way of seeing patterns in different philosophies that overlap, even though they don't mean to. Yeah. And that's sort of what I've done with the 8 moon phases. So let's start with the new moon, which is that black moon, which is approaching tomorrow, Tuesday, depends on where you live, tomorrow and Tuesday. And the vibe that I've associated with the new moon is fresh start. So I have these sort of like sassy names for each of them because I like to be sassy. But the key words for this new moon are new beginnings, inspiration, conception, emergence. It's the spring of the moon cycle. So it is the beginning, it's the birthplace. I mean, you can think of conception or birth, and those are 2 different things, but it's really this point of beginning. And it's a great time for intention setting. And it's a great time for saying out loud what it is you seek to create in the upcoming cycle. Okay? Awesome. The second one, and I want to share because I think this is really fascinating. It's a quick thing that you can kind of take away from this and hopefully remember. But each phase is 3.5 to 4 days, and they go back and forth. And I mean by that, ebb and flow in terms of energetic quality, right? So the new moon is actually active energy. You may feel inspired. You want to do something. You want to say something. You want to initiate. Okay, and then like the ocean and like the tide, it then recedes. And the second phase is the crescent moon. It is growth spurt. I call it growth spurt because there's a lot of uncomfortable feelings that come with a growth spurt. I don't know if you had growing pains when you were a kid, but it's like just this like want to crawl out of your skin sort of feeling that comes with growing really fast. And if you're setting a good intention, that new moon, and you want to do something big in your life, that next couple of days is going to be like, are you kidding me? And what happens during that second phase is like your brain lights up on fire and it's like, are you kidding me? Basically, like, remember when you tried to do that last time and you didn't? Remember when, you failed all these other times? It can be a really self-deprecating phase. Or what I teach is like with context, if we know that that's happening and use it to our advantage instead of like, oh, fuck, here's the tide. Okay, I'm just gonna brace myself. You can do that. But what I offer and I teach is like, okay, there's a quality to this too that I can use. Yeah. And that quality, I think, is this distillation or this processing that happens to the intention, which is really a refining of the original idea. Yeah. It may shine a light on all the things that have been limitations to you in the past. And if you hear it as a limitation to the future, okay, then you're going to give up then. But if you have context and be like, no, I'm just being reminded of what's not worked in the past. I have to do it differently this time. You know, and you can context like changes the whole relationship with the vibe present. Okay.
Love it.
The third one, and if I'm going to talk really fast because I get excited about this. So if you want to stop me, just like,
cool.
Tell me.
Awesome. Anybody else that has questions too, let me know and I'll interrupt her for you.
Please do. Please do. The next one's the first quarter moon, which again is an active vibe. It's a yang vibe. I call it express yourself. So this is when that intention or that idea or the inspiration, it's gone through the distillation process. Now it's sort of nudging you to share it. This phase is associated with the throat chakra. It's associated with speaking out that intention, and it takes it to the next step, which we'll talk about in the next one. But this is a really expressive phase, expression, creativity, action, discernment. This all happening in this phase because as you start to speak, you may have experienced this yourself. Say on a Monday morning, you have the idea, you know what, I'm going to quit eating carbs. I'm going to diet and I'm not going to eat carbs anymore. That's it. I'm doing it. But you only say it to yourself. And then the next couple of days, you're like, are you, girl, like last time you tried to quit carbs, you ate a whole bagel. Day 2, don't do it. Third day, you tell your husband, honey, I'm quitting carbs. Like that's it. And I know you wouldn't quit carbs. I'm just like, using this as an
it's a good example.
You like, you say it out loud and I think most of us know that like, we're only going to say out loud what we're really gonna do, because once you say it out loud, you're kind of like, there's a whole nother layer of commitment. So you really like are discerning before it comes out of your mouth. Maybe Some people are just external processors and they're just like, blah, here's all the things. But if you're the type of person that's a little bit more thoughtful, it's probably hard. It's another step to say it out loud. Okay.
Yeah.
To a point. And that happens during that first quarter moon, which is when you see half the moon illuminated, one half of it. Okay.
Okay.
The next one is we're going back to a yin. We're going back inward. So that one was an expressive vibe. We were going out into the world. We're saying things. Now we're kind of coming back in, and I call this one the analyze the shit out of everything vibe.
That's me all the time.
Yes, we like to be sassy. So like the growth spurt vibe, and whenever we pull in, that's sort of when we hear all the chatter, because when we're out in the world, we're sort of like the noise is loud and we don't have to hear ourselves think. But when we come back in, it's sort of this refining. It can sound doubtful, practical, but it is very practical, right? So it can sound like a doubting mind, like, don't do that, like, you're crazy. Did you hear how you just sounded last weekend when you told those people you were going to quit? Like, crazy. You're not going to do it, and they're all going to think you're stupid. Yeah. But again, it's this opportunity to like hear what our limitations are, because nobody else thinks you're stupid. You just think you're stupid. I'm not saying you, but
I know you. Debbie says the same thing in a comment too. She says this is the one she has a problem with. I speak it, but I start to doubt myself because of an external processor. Yes. So same.
I have so much admiration for external processors, because like I just like, I wish I could be so bold to process my shit outside myself.
Yeah.
But
I don't open my mouth until I've already analyzed everything.
Exactly. I've written the book. I have the cliff notes ready to share with you. So, and the analyze the shit out of everything vibe, we can really get down on ourselves. This can feel very uncomfortable. This is the gibbous moon, if I didn't say it, sorry. And it's this, so the next phase is the full moon, and that's the manifestation mode. Like, that's the one that is so like, woo, everybody loves the full moon, because that's when we bring things out to the light. And it's wonderful. I love the full moon too. But that period just before, when you're almost there, but you're not quite expressed, and you had this idea, and then you felt like crap about it so many times, and you're like, well, I'm not there. And you'll feel this discomfort with not being quite there yet. In that space between like where you were and where you want to go. And it feels very uncomfortable, but with context, we know, okay, this is just the space between. Like, next is 3 days from now, like we will be in a different spot. So like, this too shall pass, sort of thing, right?
Yeah. And
the next phase is the full moon, which is everybody's like, well, unless you're an ER nurse, it might not be your favorite, or top, or like a lot of people do have to deal with really difficult things on full moons. But for a lot of people, it's a really social. I call this the social butterfly. This is when you're really taking that intention that you have shared with a couple people, but now you're feeling good about it because you've gone through the refinement. And then you're like out there and you're like, well, I lost 2 pounds with my lack of carbs, or, whatever your thing is. And you're out there and really, really sharing it with the world. This is a whole different level. You may start seeing the fruits of your labor. This is a harvesting. This is the summer of the seasons of the cycle of the moon. And this is when you'll start reaping what you sowed in the beginning. This is the peak. This is the, it's a really connective vibe. It's really like, it wants to bring people together. One thing that I love about the full moon vibe is the opportunity to meet people who are pivotal in your journey, and the people that are going to help you get to the next place. There's a magnetism that happens once you are intentional about what you are creating in your life, and you start putting those things out there in the world, like you really mean it, like you really want to create this thing, and you are starting to enlist the help of other people. Something happens around the full moon that just that magnetizes them to you, and you go out into the world and you find those people because you're feeling social, because it's just that time. It can be a really illuminating time too. The full moon, as a bright one, shines a light on the things that we need to see. Hopefully shining a light on all the wonderful things that we have been becoming during that month, right?
I love it.
Can I get a quick time? Like, how long are we supposed to be here?
They're scheduled for 30 minutes, but you're fine if you go over.
No, that's helpful. The next is the disseminating moon, and disseminating is not a word we use very often in the English language, but it means to give. Disseminate is to spread, to share, and it's sort of like you start. I call it all the feels. This is the all the feels. So this is when the fruits of your labor, the manifestations of your vision, start to sink in. Like you start to feel the effects of what you have done, and also, I kind of use dissemination to really talk about giving forward. So sort of giving as a mechanism to open the circuit of currency. Like I use currency, not like money, but like the current that is giving and receiving, whatever it is. And abundance is more than just money. It's all the things. And like so many of us are really looking for abundance, but we want abundance of spirit, abundance of experience, and abundance of money. That would be nice too. But this moon gives us an opportunity to not only feel the dissemination of what has happened in especially the full moon just prior, but also this opportunity to share and to give what it is we are hoping to receive, because it opens up this circuit sort of loop.
Cool.
And again, that's a recessive, that's sort of a yin vibe, that's an inner vibe, that's more inner work that you're doing when you are cultivating this sort of giving away of what it is that you want to create. It's still more of like an inner work.
Cool.
And then the next one is the last quarter. So again, that's the half on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I call this one, this is sort of a little bit of an extension of the last one, but in a different way. I call this the let it all sink in. So then we're really feeling like this is less feeling. That last one was really feeling. This one's almost more like integrating. It's more of like a mental vibe. It's sort of like integrating all the lessons, right? So we've done this thing over the course of a month, and we've made mistakes, and we've made celebrations. We've done some things right and wrong. And it's like now your brain is going through that refinery process in like a proactive, like good way, not so much like the self-deprecating, like the first half. This is more like, okay, that went right, that went wrong. How can we do this? Let's systematize this. Let's make this easier. This is what as a Virgo, like sort of like, I love systems and organization. Like I kind of love this phase. We just finished this. This was a couple days ago. And it's really like, I've looked at my project for the past month, and I'm like, okay, I do that. I'm going to make this better. And it's like a really powerful vibe, and it can feel a little overwhelming, I think, because you're getting so many instructions to change things and rework things and do it a little bit differently, that it can feel a little overwhelming without context. Yeah. So this word context, I say it like a bajillion times because I think it's so important about what I'm teaching, because without context, you would stand at the edge of the ocean and think that it disappeared if you didn't know that it goes back and comes back over and over and over again throughout the day. If you didn't know that, you would think that the seas parted and the ocean just disappeared. So context is really super important, because if we have the context for what part of the cycle we're in, like if you know you are 89, you know that you are reaching a particular point in your life cycle. Right. If you don't know that happened, you might be really confused when certain things start falling apart in your body and your mind. Like context is everything. Yes. I love your analogies. I know. I love them. So the last one is where we're at right now. We're leaving this right now, and we're going into the new moon. And this is surprising. I'm actually doing this interview right now because it's really like against what I would normally suggest to someone in this time, but I'm in a mode of something, and I'm okay with this choice. Going with it. But the balsamic moon, like the balsamic vinegar, but the balsamic moon is, this one's a naughty word, so if you don't, I call this liminal as fuck. It's like liminal is the in-between. Is a word, again, that not a lot of people use, but I think it's like, not a lot of people use it because people are extremely uncomfortable with liminality. People don't like being in between one spot and the other. Similar to what I was talking about earlier, It's this like not quite there. We're at the end of one cycle. We're about to begin another. And it feels very like uncertain. And you're just like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Like tomorrow's a brand new day. And like, it could be a whole different life, or it could be just the same as all the other ones. And I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And it's a great time for reflection, for this opportunity to renew yourself, to let go of what did not work during the month before, step into and own what did work and what you are proud of, and start the process that you would then step into in the new moon, which is like setting intentions for the next one. So this time we really can be utilizing as like a cleanup review of what happened in the past month, get it all squared away with the energy that's supporting that sort of neurotic, like let's get this all organized with the phase before. And then you can kind of close the door on everything, pack it up for like the night, and then start fresh in the morning. And like, we all love fresh starts. We all love that feeling. That's why I loved working in academics for as long as I did, because I loved September and I loved May. Like I needed both. And like, it just provided this sense of like fresh start. So that's what I love about the moon. That was all 8 phases, and they repeat every month, y'all. So like every month we get this opportunity to start over again and to create. The moon offers us a mirror of the creation cycle, which is like this birth, life, maturing, getting older, and then death, and then, depending on what you believe, potentially birth, life, and it just keeps going and going. And so many of us are disconnected from that because we're living out of alignment with nature for one reason or another. And we've created a lifestyle that is just like out of alignment. And I think it's hurting us. I think we're all feeling that. Some people can name it, others can't. And there are many ways to get back in connection with nature and who we are as a human species, as part of a greater organism that we are part of. There's a lot of ways to do that. This is just one way. And it's one way that I know works for a lot of women that I know, because of the way that our bodies work and the way that our bodies cycle on a very similar cycle in a very similar way, that I also teach about in my class, and I didn't dive into here because it would be a whole other episode. But as women specifically, once they tap into that correlation, because again, like nature, we've been taught to like hate our bodies and everything that happens in them, and like, I won't even go down that road. But once people tap into that connection, they're like, oh, like this is happening at the same time. Like, this is really cool. And then it opens something up and it goes from there. But it just, are there any questions before I
love it. Debbie says, it's like you're totally describing my thought cycle. Now I'm thinking I need to study the moon. So I think that's a perfect transition into talking about your course. I know where you can do it.
So my offering is MoonRISE Masterclass. It is going to be a comprehensive series of different dives into using the moon for a tool for personal growth. Right now, it's a 101, and it's the introduction to using the moon phases for personal growth. And in that class, it's actually a class that meets every Wednesday for the duration of right now, July, and it's going to repeat every month. Every 29 days, we'll have an enrollment, and I'll be starting every new moon with a new cohort for now anyway. And for 4 weeks, we're going to connect by phone on Wednesdays, and you'll get 2. I wanted to offer play-by-play. Okay. So instead of just offering the lessons dropped once a week, I'm doing it on Mondays and Fridays so that they come right when the moon phase is present. And I think that's so cool, because you get this like play-by-play feel of what's happening with the moon. And basically what I'm giving them is not only the vibe, which is similar to what I just shared, but like way more comprehensive. I also offer this focus. Like, what do we want to focus our energy on? Because like I said, with context, we can do powerful things. Without context, we like flail in the water. So I give directives, and they're not overwhelming. It's like really practical stuff that you can do in your day-to-day life as it is now, and utilize this vibe to create something in your life that is a little bit more in alignment with who you want to be, and not so much just these habits that we're repeating day after day after day in survival mode. Like, my mission is to like get people out of the walking numb, as I call it, whatever you're numb with. Like, it could be sugar, it could be booze, it could be drugs, it could be work, it could be social media. I don't care what your numbness is, but like, it's my mission to like give some people something exciting. Not like just boring, like, oh, come do personal growth work, because like you gotta be better for society to be better. Like, I want to give you some fun stuff that explore while you're doing it. So it's just so cool. I talk about archetypes, I talk about chakras, I talk about colors and crystals and essential oils, all that support each moon phase as we move through it. And it gives a little something for everybody who's like dipping their toes into the woo, to like get just a little snapshot of each little thing. And again, like, it's just a little bit of each. It's just a surface scratch of this first, like, okay, how do we start using these tools for personal growth? And then in the 102, the 103, the 104, we're going to dive deeper and deeper using specific tools for specific things. But this is a really open-ended option for anybody who's like just as amazed by the moon as I am. I just like got a little emotional there. And who like wants some sort of framework to do personal growth and or spiritual growth. I use the word personal growth because I think it speaks to more people. But this is certainly like, this is the work of understanding what it means to be human, which for me is sort of the definition of spirituality. I like to use personal growth though, because it reaches a broader audience who doesn't shut down when I say spirituality. So
I feel ya.
Yeah, so that's my offering.
I love it.
I do have the cart open till midnight tonight. If anybody is, Debbie.
Yeah, we hear Debbie. She said, I love the play-by-play system.
Here. Can I link it on this thread?
Definitely.
Okay. And yeah, spread the word if you know anybody who's really grasping for something more to understand the humanness of their life. I'm really looking forward for this program to keep evolving every new moon into something bigger and bigger. So
I love it.
I appreciate this forum to share. I really, really
love it.
I've respected your work and the opportunities you give all of us to do this stuff. So thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in. I love hearing like everybody's different, like everybody talks about something so completely different, but it's so cool because that message I feel like is what brings everything back in. That's what I love hearing. And you can tell just you're so excited and passionate about it. And I love that. That's amazing. I want 1 million more of you to come in and talk all the time. So I love it.
Well, you taught me to be this way. You taught me to like just show up as my excited self. Like, I don't need to have the whole thing outlined. I can just show up as me and trust that what comes out is the right thing. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad to see it. And so if you want to put the link just in the comments when we hop off, we can do that. Otherwise, just click on Amy's name and I'm sure you'll find it somehow. But thank you so much for coming in. It's been awesome to hear from you again. And everyone else have a great weekend.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.